Mr. Brown, can I talk to you a second?
May I talk to you?
May I then?
Is your mother there? It's time for our conference.
She's downloading the newest version. She'll join in a minute. Can I talk to you first? May I talk to you first?
Can't it wait for the conference?
Not really. It's just that, well, you've never met my mom, and I just thought maybe I should warn you kind of, because it might make a difference what you want to tell her about me.
The purpose of the conference is to tell your mother how you're doing with your schoolwork. And as we both know, Nick, you're not doing particularly good work.
I know. That's why I wanted to warn you. You see, ever since my dad died, she gets, well, sort of hysterical sometimes. I'm afraid she might get upset if she finds out I'm not doing real well in your class.
Does she think you're doing well in class? Will this come as any kind of shock to her?
A bit of a shock.
You've led her to believe your grades are fine.
Oh, I've sort of not contradicted her when she assumed I was doing all right. Because my dad was really smart and everything, and she sort of expects me. She says I'm the man of the family now, and, well, can you see what I'm trying to say?
How long ago did your father die? Quite recently?
Well, no. About a year and a half.
But you're still having trouble adjusting. Is that why your schoolwork...
No, not really. Only my grades were better when he was there to help me with my homework.
So what is it exactly you're asking me?
I figured if my mom kind of didn't know...
You're asking me to lie to your mother about your progress in class.
Not lie exactly, but if you maybe didn't mention the D- on the last test and the 2 missing assignments and the little incident with the eraser. Well, we're all doing school from home now anyway, so why bring up something that happened so long ago?
Because all this would come as a shock to your mother.
I'm worried how she'll take it. I'm not sure it would be good for her. This is a stressful time, you know.
If she doesn't hear anything now, won't your grades come as a shock at the end of the semester? Surely that wouldn't be good for her either.
They'll be better by then. I promise.
And you're only asking me this out of consideration for your mother.
That's right.
Because you're worried how she might take the news.
And for you too. Because I'm sure you don't want her to start crying or anything.
It's not because you're trying to avoid any consequences for your performance since school went online.
I'm just thinking about Mom, really.
You know what I think, Nick?
What?
That if you really cared about your mother's reaction to your schoolwork, you'd put in more effort. You'd turn in the assignments on time and study for the tests, and you'd remember the use to which erasers were meant to be put.
Does that mean you're not?
I plan to tell your mother exactly what kind of student you've been.
Aww.
Nick, honey, are you coming?
If I come any closer, we'll get interference.
Oh, you're already online. Excuse us, Mr. Brown? Dan? Dan Brown.
Katie Logan?
Kathleen Marshall. That's my name now.
I always wondered what happened to you. But when your parents moved away after you went away to college...
Whoa! You two used to know each other?
Honey, please. George and I moved back here around 5 years ago. My parents are still in Michigan.
I only just heard about George. I'm sorry.
He's a good man. We had a good marriage. Anyway, I don't really want to talk about the past.
So, are you like friends? Or what?
It was a long time ago. We dated in high school.
Dated? You mean like he was your boyfriend? Oh, gross!
Well, it's nothing we need to discuss right now.
I've always wished I'd had the nerve to ask you what happened. All of a sudden,
Aren't we here to talk about Nick's progress in school?
There's no hurry. I'm sure you two have a lot of catching up you'd like to do.
No, honey. Mr. Brown and I don't have anything to say to each other.
don't you think it's time we talked about it?
No, I certainly do not.
Maybe we should just sign off. Conferences aren't mandatory. If you guys are still mad at each other, did you break up or something? I guess you must have if you married Dad.
We're adults now, Katie. We each went our own way, but that doesn't mean we can't at least be civil to each other for a few minutes.
Oh, yes, that's you all over. Cool as a cucumber. My feelings never meant anything to you.
What about my feelings?
After the way you behaved, I didn't suppose you had any.
Why? Because I didn't make a scene about it?
It would have been more decent of you to say something.
What was there to say?
Oh, I see. I was beneath your consideration.
What happened?
He dumped me. That's what happened.
Excuse me, but you're the one who stood me up. I don't know how that qualifies as me dumping you.
How can you have the gall to say that?
Because that's the way it happened.
You have the nerve to lie about it after all these years?
I'm sorry, but I can't very well sit here and let you call me a liar in front of one of my students. I have my reputation to think
Your reputation.
I think you just ended a sentence in a preposition, Mr. Brown.
that remark will be worth a demerit, Nick.
Don't you dare give my son a demerit. I will not have you besmirching his record just to vent your spite at me.
What?
She talks like that sometimes. It's the novel she reads.
I suppose you'd like nothing better than to prevent him from getting into a first-rate university.
It will be his grades.
Nick is a very intelligent child. His father and I always had high hopes for him.
Besides, he's already had 2 lunch detentions this year before school was shut down.
One of them was totally Ethan's fault.
2 detentions? You never told me.
I forgot.
I still say that it is petty and mean-spirited to take this out on my son.
Katie, Mrs. Marshall, I had no idea he was your son until I saw your face on the screen.
Oh, yeah. That's a very convenient excuse. Yep. You always had plenty of excuses. Except for when you dumped me. You didn't even bother to make any excuses then.
That's because I never dumped you.
You have any idea how I felt? Waiting and waiting, knowing the other girls were snickering at me behind my back.
I looked everywhere for you. I tore the building apart.
I was opposite the reference desk, just like I said I would be.
I looked there. And then I went to nonfiction and periodicals. I even looked in the graphic art stacks.
What would I have been doing there?
Finally, I called your house, and your mother said you'd gone out with some friends. And here I'd thought we had a date.
I always told my mother I was going out with friends. She thought I was too young to date. And why do you suppose I wanted to meet at the library in the first place?
Why didn't you just text her?
This is before everyone had a cell phone, honey. I even considered asking Mrs. Greenbaum to page you over the loudspeaker. I was too embarrassed.
Miss Greenbaum? I was at the public library.
I was at the school library. That's where we were supposed to meet.
You said the library. The public library was closer to your house.
Oh, but I had orchestra practice until 5:30. How could I have gotten to the public library by 6?
The orchestra never practiced on Fridays.
Our concert was the next week. Mr. Blair called sectionals.
Why didn't you tell me?
I never dreamed you'd be so boneheaded.
Wait a minute. You guys were going out, and you broke up over this.
I couldn't reach you over the weekend, and by the next Monday, you were going with George Marshall.
George Marshall? My dad, George Marshall?
He'd been after me all semester to go out with him. And I figured if you were going to stand me up without a word, well.
Why didn't you call me?
You know, some of the other hussies that you dated might have been that forward, but I was raised that nice girls don't call boys.
But they sneak around and see them behind their mother's back.
One more crack like that, and you are grounded.
And how would that be different from my life right now?
Yeah, well, no TV then.
I couldn't understand why you hadn't shown up. And then suddenly you're going out with someone else without a word of explanation?
Well, why didn't you explain?
How could I at that point?
and you majored in communications?
Will you stay out of this?
If you only knew how angry I felt, how humiliated.
I couldn't sleep. I sat in my room every night listening to our song.
I never went to the reference section again.
I used to walk the long way home so I wouldn't see you waiting for your bus.
I never let George take me to that Chinese restaurant where we had our first date. And I love Chinese food.
I gave up ethnic food altogether. I got cynical about life. I threw myself into my schoolwork. That's when I decided to become a teacher.
Oh, great. Torture students as a cure for a broken heart.
You really cared about me?
Ever since, I've always regretted being too shy to tell you I loved you. And then I lost my chance.
Oh, Dan.
Is it too late, Katie? Or could we still...
Wait! Stop. No. No way. No way do I want this guy as my new dad. Mom, do you know how strict he is? He even gives us homework on the weekends. Do you think I want him in our house ordering me around all day?
Oh, Nick, don't exaggerate.
Katie,
Dan?
He's mean, Mom.
Mean. When I knew him, he wouldn't even step on a spider. He used to carry my books as far as the bus stop. He wrote poetry. How could anyone be mean that wrote poetry?
Maybe then. Do you still write poems?
not for years.
See? He got mean when he got older.
It's true, I think. These kids, they're so full of energy, not a care in the world. Sometimes I want to say to them, just wait. Wait a couple of years until life knocks you around a bit. And then I assign an extra chapter of homework.
Whoa. Wait a minute. Are you saying you think you'd go easier on us if your love life improved?
May I call you sometime, Katie?
I'm a mother now. And a widow. I have to set a good example. But we still haven't talked about Nick's schoolwork. How is he doing in class?
He's a very promising student, but he really needs a father figure in his life. I think with a steadier home influence,
Oh, well, look at the time. Your next conference should have started by now. I really ought to let you go.
Here, copy it.
You're a good kid, Nick. And the eraser, as far as I'm concerned, never happened.